Sneaky Genshin Impact revealed the banners for the new patch during the live stream, and I missed it while I was recording. It was just for a split second that they showed the weapon banner, and then they did show the character banner as well. We're going to talk about whether this banner is worth pulling on for you, for the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and the weapon banner, and we're going to talk about the new feature called Capturing Radiance, which increases the 5-star rate and how it's not as good as I originally thought. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. So first of all, Kazuha and Mualani are the 5 stars, and I obviously just talked about it in my value review, and a lot of people really pushed back on Kazuha not being a must pull. And so there's a couple things that I do want to say. I undersold Kazuha in a couple ways. Number one, his grouping is unparalleled, and I didn't really talk about that enough. However, his grouping is also rarely necessary in the Abyss anymore. Nowadays, there's so many Abysses that are ungroupable, and even if there's waves of enemies, they're too far out to be grouped by Kazuha, or they're too spread out, or they're made of mech, or they just have anti-group mechanics. And Kazuha has kind of been ventied a little bit. So even though he has the best grouping in the game, and when his grouping is good, it can take you from, you know, a barely a clear to an amazing clear. The thing is that often, the grouping is not useful or needed. And so you're mostly using him for the buff, which his buff is still great. But Furina's buff is better. And there's easier characters to use and to buff. And if you want to watch that whole video, it's over there. So it's kind of like, is he still... So here's what I would say. He's not a must pull. And I know most of you agree that he's not a must pull, but you still feel like I undersold him. And I totally get it. And I don't totally disagree. Oh, we don't have much light here. You should get Kazuha, sure, if you have extra pulls, right? If you're a dolphin, or if you've just got lots of extra pulls and you have 1 or 2 characters in one of the top tiers and you want to make more teams and you want to have that insurance and that extra character, but he is a luxury pull right now, not a must pull. And that's really where I was trying to go for. Genshin has entered a new phase after Fontaine, and the meta has shifted to having many great teams that have very different structures, whereas it used to be most great teams were animo-centric. That's where it started. And then most teams were either animo-centric or maybe dendro-centric, like Hyperbloom, or maybe they're Bennett Shengling Xingqiu-centric. And there were just a few good team cores. And then with Fontaine, with Chevreuse teams and Furina teams, it's totally blown it out of the water. And there's so many good teams now. And often a lot of characters just have good AoE, such as Neuvillette. So yeah, he's best in slot with Kazuha, 100% best in slot. But it's not like he needs Kazuha to get great clears, like, at all. He has great AoE without Kazuha. It's just that there's really nothing, you might as well use Kazuha because he's the best option available for the animal slot. So I still think Kazuha's a great pull. If you want to get Kazuha, great pull. I guess when I say that he's not a must pull, it's my mind goes to the free to play or the low spender or the new player who has very limited currency, and you don't necessarily want to spend it on a luxury pull like Kazuha if you don't have a plan for the teams that you want to put him on. And if you want to know what characters are good with him and not, I made it's in my value video, I do a Kazuha tier list. I probably won't make a Kazuha guide. These 2 videos will be my updated Kazuha guide, and then I have a Kazuha guide from the beginning of Fontaine with Neuvillette's release. It hasn't changed really at all since then. So you can go watch that guide if you want the full guide on how to build him and how to play him and stuff. The only difference is Arlecchino, and you use him with Arlecchino the same way you do for Utao, and Neuvillette, which you just put him on the team. So really no update for Kazuha. I don't think that there's any point in that, but I really think that there's just so many strong options that you don't need to go for Kazuha. But he's still a great pull. Like, he's still very, very useful. If you have extra wishes, he's worth getting. Like, 100%. As a support, if you have extra wishes, 100% they should go to Kazuha. If you don't have extra wishes and you're kind of strapped for primos, look at the teams you have. Maybe you have teams that really want him, like Arlecchino, Neuvillette, Linny, Klee. I talked about them all over there. Or maybe you want to get away with it without him and look for other new strong Natlan characters. Guys, we all know there's going to be really strong Natlan characters, and if you're strapped for pulls, pulling Kazuha means not pulling someone else. Not saying you shouldn't do it, not saying he isn't worth it. He's just not as ubiquitous as he once was. So if you have old advice from when he was a must pull, because he was a must pull in my opinion, like as much of a Genshin must pull as can be, he's just not that way anymore. So Moving on to Mualani, I think either my pre-release video is already out or it's just about to come out, so I won't talk about her too much. Both her and Keqing are going to be very solid DPSs, very good DPSs. I think, as I said, I think that they're going to be along the lines of the other good DPSs like Hu Tao, Navia, etc., or maybe a bit below, maybe a bit above. And then with the Archon, because they both really want off-field pyro, and Xiangling is just really tough to use with them because of the energy needs. So they both really want Xiangling, but so obviously the Pyro Archon is going to take them both to the next level. So I think that they're totally safe to get. I think that if you like their designs and playstyles, you should 100% get them. Check out my pre-release. Again, it's either the previous video or the next video. And that's the 5 stars. So for 4 stars and for weapon banner next. So what are we looking at? We've got Bennett, Xinyan, and Keqing. Keqing also talked about in the pre-release, but she's looking like a really good Geo character. One of the better Geo characters we've had in a while, mostly because she can use the new Natlin artifact support set, which is a very broken set, gives a lot of damage percent to the active. Gonna be really good. I think they sneak peeked it on the live stream as well. I don't know if Keqing constellations are gonna be insane. They're probably gonna be good because she's a DPS. So it depends on how much value, like it just depends on how strong she is, I think, to see whether her constellations are good. How good are her constellations? I really don't know yet. I'll be doing a C0 versus C6 Keqing video to see exactly how strong she is and how worth it she is to get constellations of. And that will really, to me, Keqing constellations determine the value of this 4-star banner, because Bennett given for free in the shop, Xinyan almost never used. She may have a use with Mualani somehow, to do pyro for vapes and burning and stuff like that. Hard to say. I still don't like the Winter Shield Brace. You lose pyro app, so I'm still doubting. X to doubt. And then Keqing, you're also given a free copy of Keqing. So if she's really good at C0 and and you're not really specifically gunning for Mualani or Kazuha or whatever, like if you already have C6 Bennett, which you might, or if you got it from the shop, you only really need C1 Bennett. Like, this could go from a solid banner to an awful banner really fast, depending on how good Keqing constellations are. If you already have Bennett constellations, like, Bennett does get a nice upgrade from C5 and C6 if you have a pyro DPS, but C1 he's perfectly good. So it's kind of like hard to say how good this banner is. It's complicated. This banner it's really complicated. The Kazuha is a complicated character now, and the 4 stars are complicated in terms of value. Xinyan, you can do plunge Xinyan with Shan Yun, but you can do that with any Pyro Claymore or any Claymore. Bennett, obviously insane, good to get copies of, but lots of people already have him. In Keqing, yeah, it's just an unknown. I think overall, I would call this decent, but not insane. And very poor synergy with the on-field character. Keqing has no synergy with the on-banner character. Xinyan has very little synergy with most characters. And Bennett has great synergy with Kazuha and terrible synergy with Mualani, since she's an HP scaler. So I would have loved to see Bennett on the Keqing banner, because at least Bennett is good on with Keqing. So that's what I think about the 4 stars. For the 5 stars, or sorry, for the weapon banner, we've got Keqing's weapon. Or sorry, we got Mualani's weapon. It's super cute. The little shark inside, or the little shark, little penguin inside the shark, little shark inside the shark. I don't know, but it looks just like the Wenjie. They're totally referencing Zenless Zone Zero here. This is Ellen Jo's signature weapon. She's a shark girl. And so now we have Shark Girl and Genshin with a Wenjin. So that is really, really funny. Check out my second channel for ZZZ content, by the way. And we are getting Surf's Up with Freedom Sworn. Freedom Sworn is a very interesting weapon, because Kazuha, this weapon is technically his best in slot-ish, but you've also got Sipho's Moonlight, which is just infinitely easier to use, and it's better for regenerating energy. Granted, that was a 4-star on the previous banner with Nilou, or is that live right now? No, it was the previous banner. And that is like, I would prefer every day of the week to have Sipho's Moonlight over Freedom Sworn, but Freedom Sworn is still good. The issue is to really make it better than Sipho's Moonlight. Even in terms of his personal damage and buffing, you need to have tons of energy recharge substats, which is okay. You can really farm for your Kazuha and really go all in on that, but personally, I prefer to just Fav and go, or Xiphos and go if you have Xiphos. So it's not an awful weapon to get. Like, it's a pretty good weapon. It's pretty good on Al-Haytham. It's pretty good on a bunch of stuff. Like, it's not awful. It's one of the more decent weapons, but it's definitely not like amazing. And Mualani, being an HP scaling catalyst user, Surf's Up obviously going to be great for her, but if you have the Battle Pass weapon, that's good for her as well as being good for Novelette. Prototype Amber or the new Fontaine craftable potentially will be great 4-star options. I'll test her 4-star versus her 5-star weapon. I will be getting her 5-star, but I think Widsith should also be really great for her since she's vape, so she can really take advantage of either the damage bonus or the M. The attack is useless for her, so you'll have to reset if you see the attack buff, but the Widsith could be really, really good. So overall for the 5 stars, they're solid. They're solid, especially if you're going for Mualani's weapon. They're solid. I don't know how universal Mualani's weapon is going to be. It'd probably be good for Novelette, like probably be one of Novelette's better options because it's probably going to give her HP and crit damage, but it may be really, really niche tied to Mualani specifically. So in general, this is solid 5 stars if you're going for Mualani, like solid, not great, but solid. And then potentially okay, but we'll have to wait and see if you're going for Kazuha's weapon, which I don't recommend going for. I don't recommend anyone go for Kazuha's weapon. You should go for Xiphos. It looks better on him too anyway. But the 4 stars kind of, they don't save it, but they're kind of cracked. They're kind of potentially some of the best 4 stars we've ever had. If we had Favonius Lance instead of Dragon's Bane, this would be the best 4-star weapon banner you could pretty much have outside of Xiphos Moonlight and those really broken newer ones, like Nahida's 1 or even star. But Sacrificial Fragments, the Catalyst, very good to have. Really good on a lot of characters. Sucrose, Kokomi, Nahida, just a good weapon overall. Stringless, great on Fischl. Good on Yolan if you don't need ER. You can actually leave it at level 1 on Yolan, which is pretty funny because she doesn't use the passive usually. But it's a great weapon. It has good stats. Fav Claymore. You generally don't end up using Fav Claymore, but it's not the fault of Fav Claymore. It's just that there's not really any support Claymore characters like that. Possibly one day it actually ends up being quite a relevant weapon, but right now basically none of the Claymores are like really great because they just don't have support Claymores, and there's no like good 4-star DPS Claymores that could be on a weapon banner. So at least for now, there's like not really any good Claymore weapons you could really pull. So it's probably one of the better ones or one of the best ones. And then Dragon's Bane, pretty good, like EM Raiden, I guess, and Hu Tao. It's a really good stat stick on Hu Tao. But the real star is Favonius Sword. Favonius Sword is just so incredible. Ideally, if you're wishing on this, you're getting your Surfs Up for your Mualani, and you're getting lots of Favonius Sword for your Kazuha. That's the ideal. But again, never wish on the weapon banner for 4 stars. It's super unlikely. You have to win your 50-50 to even get one of the rate ups, and then you have to get a 1 in 5 to get the one you want. So never wish for 4 stars on the weapon banner. It can only lead to despair and disappointment. I will say this is the first weapon banner with 1 fate point instead of 2, which is really huge. I'm really happy to see one fate point instead of 2. You're not going to get nearly as screwed over as you were before. So if you have the savings, go for it. Just remember that your fate point does not carry over. If you get 1 of 2 fate points, or sorry, 1 of 1 fate points, you need to finish the pity and get it. But hey, they made it a lot better. It's really good. It's really good that they made it a lot better. The final thing I wanted to talk about that I misunderstood on the live stream is they're introducing this funky little mechanic that when you would lose the 50-50, instead you have a 10% chance to instead win the 50-50. And so I thought that this worked completely different than it did. When I saw this, I thought that it was like an item or something that you got because I saw that flash of the thing, and I thought it was like an item that you got that made you win the 50-50 even when you would have lost it. It was like a one-time thing as like a gift. And I thought that that was super amazing, but I completely misunderstood what it was. Instead, what it actually is it's a permanent mechanic that will increase the rate up by essentially 5%. You have a 10% chance to win. If you lose the 50-50, you have a 10% chance to win it. So essentially the 50-50 odds are now 55-45. Is this good? Yes. Is this worth like the big excitement and presentation and flashy new animation they said? No, because it's like, I don't know, 55% just isn't that much more than 50. Like, it's nice, it's good, it may help you a lot, but it also may never help you depending on the rolls, right? So I'm happy that the 50-50 is higher, but I don't think, but it felt more like it sounded better the way that it sounded. I guess the fact that it's only a 10% chance, okay, and it has nothing to do with your guarantee. So if you think about it like this, it's only a 10% chance half the time, because half the time you're on a guarantee, right? Slightly less than half the time. That gets a bit complicated, but for the most part, sometimes you're on a guarantee and then this new mechanic doesn't affect you. And half the time when you're on a 50-50, then this mechanic can happen, but only 10% of the time. So it's like wishing only got 5% better. So like 1 in 20 banners, you win the 50-50 instead of lose it. 1 in 20 banners? When are you wishing for 25 stars? How long will it take to get 25 stars to average it out to get this mechanic? Like it's just not that impactful probably. So that's why I don't really like that mechanic. But hey, I mean, I will definitely take it. On balance, overall, people will benefit from this. Lots of 5 stars will be given out when people would have normally lost the 50-50. So it is good overall, but it's not like amazing. It's not like the other rewards, and they were some awesome other banger rewards. Check out my rewards video right there. Take care. Bye for now.